Hello, everyone. Welcome to episode 12 of Mental Spelunking. In this episode, we talk about greatness and why it doesn't last that long. We also talk about childhood conditioning and the societal perceptions of how beauty looks. We then go into talking about why it is so important to be vulnerable when you're trying to reinvent yourself and the importance of vulnerability in your life. And we finish with talking about social capital and how that affects society at large. We hope you enjoy this episode and let's get into it. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 12. Holy crap. We made it a year.
Oh my gosh, it's
We
been a
did
year.
it. It's been a year. This is the 12th episode.
Oh,
And
it's
we
been
put
so
out
fun.
one a month, and it's been great. We have survived a year. We have
That's kinda
committed to
amazing.
it for a year, which is actually quite impressive if you think
Yeah.
about it. You know, like there was definitely some times where we record and we're like, we're going to have to probably redo that one. That's not going to be put on the internet. That wasn't very good. I also had to do a lot of learning where it was like, no one wants to listen to someone do a co-hosted podcast where I talk for 90% of the time. That's just, it's like Allison's just a prop out there, like just doing like a random little jig. Yeah. I'm just going to be dancing in between the times that Liam talks. And no one wants to listen to that, you know? And every time I'd get off those podcasts, my wife would be like, I kind of was listening and it just, God, Liam, you talk too much. Like, God, at some point you're going to have to learn. Like you didn't learn that in kindergarten. Like, Liam, there are 29 other people in this class. They all have a point. I agree. They all do have a point, but that's not my point.
How were you in class? I'm curious, actually, when you were younger. What was that like?
Oh, I struggled. I really struggled with school. I struggled a lot. Like my wife and I were just the polar opposite in school. She was the perfect student, the student that every parent wants. Like, don't have to ask to do homework, does really well, high achiever. I was very energetic. I had a lot of, I couldn't sit still. School wasn't really built for me. Actually, I don't think it was built for a lot of men. I think women just do better in school than men. Like, men realistically need to go and just run around for 9 hours and then do 1 hour worth of work because they could do that. Girls are a heck of a lot more compliant. So yeah, no, I was loud and I was probably somewhat disruptive. And, I remember I had one teacher who wouldn't let me go out for recess and then would complain to my mom that I wasn't listening. And so my mom was like, here's a novel idea. Why don't you let him run around? So good on my mom for saying that. But yeah, that was kind of my, I don't know. I just felt like I was like, why can't we go to the gym again? Why can't we play dodgeball? Why can't we run around? And like, why can't we play belly baseball? By the way, did you ever play belly baseball when you were in high school or junior high?
I've never heard of it. What is it?
Yeah, belly baseball is really cool. It's a really cool thing. So we would get out the gymnastics, like huge, like fall bags, the bags where you can like go and do flips on and whatnot. So we put them as the bases. You'd play it indoors and it'd be kickball, but instead of running to the base, you'd get a jump onto the base and dive onto the base, which is just fun.
That sounds so fun.
And if you kicked the ball, because we'd have the basketball hoops up. So if you kicked the ball into the basketball hoop, it was an automatic home run. So it was just like so you'd always obviously try and kick it in there. But there'd always be one person standing underneath it because people are like, well, they're going to try and get a home run. And it's such like a low percentage shot, but you still did it. Because when you did it, God, you felt like $1 million.
Oh, I can imagine. Yeah.
Like, I feel like you were the polar opposite student of me.
Yeah.
Seeing as you got the highest GPA ever in your school.
Yeah, it was A different student. It's interesting you use the word compliant for women or for girls. And I actually, while you were speaking, part of my mind was wondering, is that natural or is that conditioned? Because I'm not sure that girls are naturally more compliant. I'm sure they're more naturally conditioned to be compliant. Um, yeah, I was much more sit down, learn the things. I love to run around though, but I knew that I would get in trouble. That's why I was kind of like, I'm not sure because I knew that I would get in trouble and I didn't want to get in trouble. So that was what kept me in my seat as much as I would have preferred to play. Like, I really love to play. And I love learning too, but I love to play. Um, but yeah, there was a fear, I think, that kept me sitting there quietly.
That makes
Uh,
sense. And so, like,
yeah.
what's your feeling? Like, do you think that they're more compliant, or do you think that they're just more conditioned?
Mm, my sense is that there's more conditioning around being compliant, and that there's an age where boys just really do have a surge of just a lot more need for movement than girls have in general. Uh, that's very clear when you're working with young kids. They just have to move, and not honoring that does a disservice to them. It's not that the girls don't also have to move. It just doesn't come as forcefully bubbling out of them as it does the boys. Like the boys are just like, like I'm gonna explode. Let me out of this chair. Um, but
They're
yeah,
almost
there
like the
is.
Tasmanian devil in
Yeah,
tornado form, but in
yeah,
their desk. It's like,
yeah,
you need to let me out of
yeah.
my.
They're
I'm
just
I'm
like,
spinning rapidly.
oh, you can't take it anymore.
Yeah.
um, and there are some girls I've met who are also like that. So I don't want to make gross generalizations. But from a young age, I notice girls are conditioned to do things that are more focused, more sitting still than the boys are. So they get used to it a lot younger.
Do you think that like factors in like why girls' handwriting's better than men's? Like I remember always looking at girls printing in elementary and junior high and high school. It's like, my God, I can read this. It's like my handwriting is terrible.
I never thought of it. It's possible. Yeah, it is possible. I've known some men to have beautiful handwriting. Mathematicians. The men I know who are mathematicians or physicists have some of the most beautiful handwriting I've ever seen.
It's legit.
Yeah.
Like it's just a generalizations exist because there's like a you throw it on a standard deviation curve, and this is just kind of where they get plotted out. Obviously, there's always going to be an exception to the rule,
Hmm.
but on the most part, I just remember thinking back in junior high and elementary, it was very rare that girls were standing up and disrupting the class.
Yeah.
It's very rare. It's very rare that they were going out and getting in trouble.
Yeah.
Not that they didn't get in trouble, they did, but guys just got in trouble. Like it's almost as if the trouble seeked the guys out. So it was just inevitable. There was just like an inevitability about it.
It's
Like
part of
they were
growing
just
up.
going, yeah. Well, and it's just, yeah, like there's just more of a rebellious. Like my sense with guys is that there is a feeling of having to go and plant your flag somewhere
Mm.
and really kind of, and I don't know if that's like biological, but like there's like a feeling where guys are like, well, I got to go and be an individual.
Mm.
And I'm not saying that women don't feel that, but there's just this like feeling to find your identity. So like, even when you think about it, like even when you think about like when your kids get married, there's that weird like thing where they say like you know, when you have a daughter, you have a daughter forever, but like women tend to come back to their families. Men tend to just be like, I've got on my boat and I'm gone. I might come back if it fits my schedule, but women are very much they really want to come back to that family. I don't know. That's just kind of how I look at it. And I'm not just saying that about me. I'm talking about that like when I look at like my mom's family, all the daughters that were in their family, they're always spending time with their parents and whatnot. I'm not saying that they didn't spend time with their husband's parents, but it just seemed to me like that's just kind of how it went. I don't know. Do you have any sense on that? Like, what's that?
I don't know. It's the first time I've heard a man say that in that junior high period there was this feeling, or like early high school feeling, to go out and plant your flag. And it made me think about the rituals and the rites of passage that we used to have in culture, and how the absence of those have actually led to this very prolonged adolescent period and a lack of clear direction, for especially for men, but I think also for women. So I'm wondering if that's part of it, if there's that lack of like transition from childhood to adulthood that marks that, just leads to a sense of sort of grasping for something that will mark that transition for you. And in some sense, then when you said the trouble finds you, I thought, oh, I wonder if that's part of it, because almost all of those rituals involve something that was challenging that you had to overcome. The ritual wasn't just sitting there and being like, now you are an adult. It was proving that you had moved from childhood into adulthood.
Yeah, it's like the whole Joseph Campbell's hero's journey, right? It's like you go out and you like go on your journey and you have to go and find your dragon, and then you come back and you like tell the people that you knew, like, well, this is what I learned on my little hero's journey, right? Like there's really intense hero's journey like the Odyssey, which is, you know, like that's a pretty intense one where you got to go, and pretty sure they have to fight a cyclops, and they have to go past that island of the sirens, and like they get, anyways, there's all these, like, it's a pretty intense here. And by the way, he had to go fight a war too before all that, right? It's like you thought, okay, there was my hero journey, I fought the war. No, that was just the start. That was actually the easiest part. Now you got to get home. But yeah, I think that you are right. Like I think that you are right. There's a with where modern society is, it's a lot more shrouded in mystery, the hero's journey. Whereas before, like I remember watching the movie 300, and I don't know if this is true about Sparta or not, but like they would send out a young person with a spear, and he'd have to go out and do something, and he'd like go kill a wolf or something like that, and he kills the wolf, and he gets to bring the wolf back, and it's like, look, I've done something, like I can now be like in the army. Now I could be butchering it and whatever, people could be upset by what I'm saying. I'm just saying this is what I remember. And like that's like probably a very important part of that guy's life. It's no different than like in shamanism. Like some of the rites of passage they do for shamanism was like very intense. It's like they go out and have to like live in the Arctic for 30 days. And if they died, well, I guess you weren't a shamanism. But if they came back, they're like, oh, I guess this guy's the shaman. And it's like, that's pretty binary. It's a pretty intense rite of passage. Mm-hmm. It's like, I guess he lived, so he's our shaman now. Oh, he's frozen in the tundra. All right, well, we won't go find that guy. The spirits got him. Great. He's dead. Okay, well, he died. Now who wants to go and do that same journey? Oh, me, I'm in. Like, fuck. So no. But I think that actually kind of leads to a really interesting thing. So I watched this documentary done by Louis Theroux. Louis Theroux is a British documentarian, and it was called like Inside the Manosphere. And it's a whole documentary where Louis Theroux is going and meeting all these like TikTokers and YouTubers and whatnot who are inside the like alt-right you know, uh, very traditional male view, which is like very not traditional, but it's alt-right traditional view. So the alt-right traditional view, which is like very misogynistic and all about like having a traditional wife and one-way monogamy. That one I thought was very funny. The one-way monogamy. It's like Louis Theroux was like, what does that mean? So he's like, well, my wife can't talk to any other men. And he's like, okay. And the guy says, I know that hurts. He's like, what do you mean it hurts? Why would that hurt? Like, why would I feel bad or feel jealous of you having a one-way monogamous relationship? And then the guy's talking. He's like, yeah, like I'll go out on a date with a girl and then boom, I'll be like, this is my wife. And he's like, I'm automatically angling for a threesome. And I'm laughing hysterically watching this documentary because I'm like, these are real people. Like this isn't like a gag. Like this isn't like a haha. These are real dudes. And in the back of my head, right? Because I actually think this is a good it was a good setup for what we were talking about, right? Like with the rites of passage and what's happening with men and whatnot. It's like, this is what's happening. Like people don't realize, like if you're a parent and you've got young men or middle-aged, like teenage men and whatnot, like these are people who are being found by your kids online. And they're very much, like these people don't have like 2,000 followers. They've got tens of millions of followers. And I can tell you right now, it's probably not women. Maybe there's just like some like women who are like, I need to look at what I'm up against. Fine. But I think you're right about this rite of passage and this odd kind of place we're in society when it comes to men. But anyways, I love your view on it.
I don't know very much about that, say, philosophy or way of being that you're presenting. It does
just like
seem,
in general.
Yeah, it does seem that what you're saying is very much rooted in a need for control, which almost always comes from a lack of connection with oneself. Like need for control having to do with fear of things not being exactly the way that you want them to be, and then therefore kind of needing to have them be organized exactly perfectly for you, but that's just unsettled within. And I'm not surprised by that because I don't get the sense that, speaking at least to Western culture, that we have a clear path forward for men that actually honors the gifts that men have to share in the world. Like we've actually spent a lot of time suppressing those. I mean, to the earlier part of the conversation, we were talking about boys just having to sit in their chair. That just isn't the natural state for boys. So when you don't honor that, and when you repeatedly don't honor that, and you suppress it, you end up with men who are not in touch with how they're feeling, who are not in touch with their bodies, who have suppressed all of their natural instincts and beings to fit into some very specific mold. So I get it. I get why people rail against it. This is an interesting permutation of that.
Well, it's very dysfunctional permutation.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But if you also think about society too, like I was watching Scarface last night, and
what's that?
Okay, so Al Pacino's really good in it, and it's just very violent. I don't particularly want to watch a guy die being hacked to death with a chainsaw. I'm not really into that. And they're like forcing Al Pacino to watch. Dude, unbelievable actor, because it's like he finds a way to act out a way where he might pass out. Like, like when you see something so disturbing, or you feel it's a really brutal scene, but it's a very well acted out scene by Al Pacino. But Al Pacino says a very interesting thing in that movie. They're at this pool, and his partner Manolo is like trying to pick up women. And he's coming up with like the most ridiculous ways to do it. Now Pacino's like, there's no way that's not going to work. And then he goes and gets kids. He's like, watch this. And then Manolo goes and does it and gets slapped. He's like, see? And like, anyways, he looks at Manolo. He's like, look, you can't get women. This is what Al Pacino says. He's like, you can't get women in America without money. He's like, first, you have to get money. Then you have to get power. Then you get money. Then you can get the woman. And like, it's so grotesque. It's such a grotesque thing. It's like essentially what you're saying is that you are a faceless void.
Yeah.
You have no value outside of your power and your money. Like, you yourself, your soul, and what you bring to the world has zero value. And the only thing that you can ascribe value to is power and money. And it goes back to what we've talked about before, right? The quantifiable success. It's like, okay, if I have a Ferrari and I've got this and I've got that, well, then obviously the woman's going to want to be with me. And to be fair, right, there is definitely a sect of women that do believe that. There is a sect of, there has to be a glove in hand for those things to exist. The stereotype has to exist because for some odd reason there is a part of society that does fit that stereotype. And it's a very sad stereotype because both of them are faceless voids. Both of them ascribe zero value to themselves.
Yeah.
And they essentially say, okay, well, I don't actually want to find true love. I just want to find money and power. And they find each other, right? Like that, like, you know, it's like your vibration finds other like-minded vibrations. And it's just in my view, it's kind of like, don't you want to go and find true love? Like, I know maybe I sound like a fucking Disney character when I say that, but like, that sounds a heck of a lot more fun to me because you're going to be able to put yourself in an extremely vulnerable spot. Vulnerability is the only way that you can grow. And, I can tell you right now, when you find someone that you can fall in love with more and more and more each day, well, that's one of the most vulnerable places you can be in life, period, full stop. Because you're in a relationship with somebody who could rip that all away from you. Because if they choose to be like, I don't want to be with you anymore. So it's there's that level of friction there all the time. But there's also faith in the saying, hey, this is what I want. I just think that's the sad part is you have this whole subsect of people who are essentially saying, I don't want to find that. I want to go and do this. And to do this is very externally focused, which you'll never be able to find. Like in that movie, in Scarface, the Sharon Stone character, she's with this guy who's super loaded, but doesn't like him, hates him, like mocks him to his face and all this kind of stuff. And I give Sharon Stone so much credit for how she acted in this movie because she's then with Al Pacino. Al Pacino finds a way. He's like, yeah, I have more money, more power than this guy. And oh, by the way, I killed your ex-husband, so now you got to be with me. And she's like, same thing with Al Pacino. She's like, I don't like you. Because how could you like you? She doesn't actually like you. She likes what you have. There's a difference.
Yeah. Or herself. Because I'm thinking the flip side also exists where women become faceless voids, but they become that based on the rating system of their attractiveness. Right. So the inner bit doesn't matter at all. It's just what you're able to present to the world and what the world says is attractive. And that's just as empty feeling and just as invalidating on so many levels as what you're describing for men. I mean, we mirror it all around. It's just mirrored and reflected everywhere.
Well, and then if you listen to the music, right, there's a lot of music that glorifies all this stuff,
Yeah.
right? They're not, it's not like they're glorifying these beautiful women. Like they're not being like, oh, these are great women that have really great personalities and we really like them. It's not.
No, it's not.
That's not what they're saying.
No,
That's
we're a
not what they're
commodity.
saying.
Right?
You are a commodity.
Mm-hmm.
And, there's like, Father Time is undefeated. So, like, like I'll give you a great example. So I was I was watching this documentary on Billy Joel. And so Billy Joel's first wife, Billy Joel stole his best friend's girlfriend.
Huh.
Yeah. Lived together with his best friend because Billy Joel like grew up in a very weird household. It's actually, do you want to know the one really interesting thing about Billy Joel? The same upbringing as Elton John, and they both turned into piano playing pop sensations. The
Really?
exact same thing.
The
Like,
same upbringing?
same thing. It was like
Huh.
dad that didn't want anything to do with them, and then went and had another family, and he loved that family.
Oh.
Like, so sad. But then Billy Joel and Elton John became like, they play together and they would tour together, and I'm like, this is so funny. And you guys are like, yeah, we had the same dad, so we might as well be friends.
Are they both? I don't know anything about that. Is Billy Joel American or English?
He's American. That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. It's
Oh,
like
that's wild.
he essentially just it's the same counterpoint. Like it's very funny. Anyways, the only difference is that Billy Joel is heterosexual, but still, it's like still very similar. So anyways, I'm watching this, and Billy Joel's first wife, the wife that he stole from his best friend, he was in a band called Antilla with this guy. The guy had a kid together with this girl, and then he ended up playing. Anyways, it's just like it's very odd. It's very similar to like George Harrison and Eric Clapton, where Eric Clapton stole George Harrison's wife. Eric Clapton wrote the song Layla about George Harrison's wife, and then yeah, see, exactly.
Oh, it's
Very
all this
odd.
power, all power and control all the way down. Okay, yeah. Continue.
So anyways, this woman, so they interview her, and I don't know how old she is. Hold on. Billy Joel first wife. Her name's Elizabeth. Yes. Elizabeth Weber Small. How old is this woman? I don't know how old she is, but she's like in her 70s, I think. In her 70s. This woman is unbelievably beautiful. Like I'm looking at this woman when I'm watching. I'm like, oh my God, does this woman have unbelievable facial structure? She also looks just like the nicest woman. Like this woman loved Billy Joel. She was like she like helped him become who he became, and helped and was like produced him and represented him.
Oh,
and
wow.
she was very, very, very talented. But I'm sitting there saying to myself, I'm like, look, I think that this woman is very beautiful, and she's in her 70s, but still, right? Like your beauty still, like you're not going to be as externally beautiful when you're 85 as when you're 22. So the only thing that can stay consistent is your inner beauty. That's the only thing. Like your outer beauty, whatever it is, what it is, but your inner beauty, and then your inner beauty can actually radiate. So you still stay relatively beautiful as you get older. But if the only thing that you're valuing is your external looks, whether you're a man or a woman, well, like, and you have no inner beauty, well, that beauty definitely is going to fade substantially. And I think that's why when you look at it, you look at all these men that are in Hollywood, they're doing all this like plastic surgery and just trying so hard to like stay young. It's like, hey, you know what? Like that, you're going to lose. You are going to lose. Like you're not going to win.
That's a line from a Radiohead song.
Which song?
I'm forgetting the name of it, but it's the one about gravity always wins. Do you remember this
I
song?
can't remember that song. I only know Creep, and I know Karma Police.
No.
And there's a couple other ones, but I don't have the top of my head.
I can think of it, but I need a second.
So there's a great documentary with Robbie Williams. Do you know who Robbie Williams is?
No, but wait, I want to pull on something though that you just said before
Okay,
we
go.
move on. But I was trying to think of the name of the song, but I can't think of it fast enough.
What's the lyric? Oh, gravity always wins?
Yeah, it's like it's the one that goes, it wears me out.
What is it? Fake plastic trees?
That's it. Fake plastic trees. Thank you. Yeah, because it's all about plastic surgery. I should have remembered this. Yeah. It's a great song. Because you had said something about you're not going to be as beautiful at 82 as you are at 22. And I don't know that that's true, because we've been so conditioned to say that youth is beautiful. You could just as easily be conditioned to say that older is beautiful, that the wrinkles are beautiful, right? That the like
Sure.
and actually there are some people. I think about my grandmother. I never knew her when she wasn't older. And to me, she was the most beautiful woman I'd ever seen. I only knew her when she was in her
It's fair.
70s, right? So I'm just not so sure. And when people, because I live in Los,
I'll talk about the colloquial beauty,
yeah,
like that what society deems to be beautiful.
yeah,
Okay, I'm not saying that
now,
you or I can that now exactly. I'm
yeah,
not saying that that's what it is.
yeah,
I'm just saying that on the aggregate, if you go look at what is pushed in ads and all
yeah,
that kind of stuff, you know,
yeah.
like I don't know if Sydney Sweeney is going to be doing jean ads when she's at 85. She might be. I don't know, but who knows?
I don't know who that is.
You
But
should
okay.
you should look up. I'll send you a photo of Sydney Sweeney after.
Okay. I'm just assuming she's someone who's young. Uh, yeah, I kind of just like playing with the idea of what it would be like if actually we valued the wisdom and the knowledge of people who are older, and viewed that as beautiful, viewed the lines, like when you smile, you can't really see it there. All of these is actually like beautiful, as opposed to something that we should get rid of or remove, or
Yeah,
smooth away with injections of something.
I agree.
Yeah. It might be really interesting to imagine where people's hearts and mindset would be if we were to flip it and value that over youth,
I
or at
remember.
least equally.
I'll tell you a funny story when I was a kid. So when I was a kid, I remember I
Mm.
was like 4, and my grandma was taking me to like go skating, and she like did not want to take me skating that day, and she had arthritis in her hands, and she had to like do my skates up because I can't. And I was there. I remember I'm in the little change room, and I looked at her. And I was like, "Grandma," she's like, "What?" I'm like, "You're beautiful," and she just was like,
Oh.
she was like, "I'm gonna tie your skates perfectly today." So. And yeah, I think you go back to what, like, if a 4-year-old thinks you're beautiful, then that's probably the truth.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's really,
So,
really sweet.
so yeah, um, there's actually one thing I did actually want to ask you about today.
Mm.
I actually came somewhat prepared. We usually don't come prepared, and I didn't actually know what what we were going to talk about just when, but that's okay. So I want to talk about greatness and why it's kind of ephemeral.
Mm.
And like why it's so hard to sustain it. So you think about, like, sports is a really easy one, right? Like at some point, uh, like the mixture of magic that a team has is going to go away. Like
Mm.
it's very hard for you to be great for, like 40 years. The only team that I can readily think about that was dominant for a 40-year period was the Red Army hockey team. They won like 7 Olympics in a row, and they were essentially, they won 25 or 26 world championships in a 40-year period, and that's quite dominant. But for the most part, it's very ephemeral, right? Like, and there's always ways that these things just go away. And it's the same thing with like civilizations. It's the same thing with like monarchy and all these things. And I just wanted your opinion on, it's like, why is it the only other person I can think of who had sustained greatness his whole career was Gautam Siddhartha. That guy was legit, at least from like what I've read. Like, that dude was consistent and helped lots of people and did his Vipassana thing for a long time, even while he was dying. Okay, so dude was like great his whole career, whole life, which is pretty impressive. But
Mm.
when you think about it, like it's so ephemeral, but it's so impressive. But then it's almost as if like society doesn't like it. Like society would rather see parody than they'd see greatness. And greatness is so rare.
Mm.
Like true greatness where you're like, wow, there's like you, and then there's like everybody else, which is like way down here. Like you guys aren't even on the same playing field. You just don't, you don't even deserve to be on the same playing field. So I just wanted your view.
I have a question before I share. When you talk about greatness, are you thinking about greatness on a grand scale? Because when you said that it's rare, I don't know if it's rare because I wonder, is there greatness on a small scale?
So yeah, so I would say like greatness on a like greatness on a grander scale. Like use the Beatles, right? Like the Beatles broke up. Like they broke up when they were the best band. Like it wasn't even close. They were the best band, and they're like, yeah, we're breaking up.
Hmm. Hmm.
Like NWA broke up when they were number one on the radio. They had the number one album in the country. Yeah, we're breaking up.
Hmm. The image that comes to mind is that of a flower.
Okay.
Because, right, a flower can be so beautiful when it blooms, but it doesn't stay sustained in its blossoming. At some point, the flower fades away. And then there might be another flower. And my suspicion with that being the analogy is that it takes so much to produce that beautiful flower that it simply isn't sustainable for most people over long periods of time, because there's so many other factors that are trying to say, like, okay, you've done it, and now keeping that level of maintenance is hard over time. And so the tendency then is to go back to something that doesn't require so much energy, resources, time, whatever it is, right? And when in our society, when you achieve something that's at that level, the conditions are different when you're at that space. So the conditions to get to that space are completely different than the conditions for maintaining at that space. So to get there, you come up through usually being someone who's obscure, right? Working really hard. There's a lot of grit and resilience that goes into that. And the obscurity, to me, seems to be an important ingredient in helping to produce that greatness, because you're not getting a lot of outside input to influence you. But once you get to that place of greatness, now you're in a different soil. It's entirely different soil, and you've got a lot of outside influence trying to move you in a certain direction. And so maintaining your own inner sense of self and knowing, and a group dynamic sense of itself and knowing in the midst of all of this kind of mixture seems like it would be quite difficult. Just my thought. I don't know. What's your thought?
So the image that comes to my mind is in Inception. You've seen Inception?
Yes.
Yeah. Yes, when Elliot Page did the scene with Leonardo DiCaprio. There we go. What Leonardo DiCaprio says, he says, okay, because Elliot's like changing so many different things and really building it, but then the people in there start becoming hostile. So first it starts off by just like one person kind of randomly walking into her. Then it starts off, then it's like more, then a mob kind of builds. And that's when Leonardo DiCaprio is like, hey, we have to be a little bit less, we got to be a little bit less overt, because your creativity can get going and it's really nice. But then what happens is you actually set off all these defenses in the world to then have you actually get removed, because you are actually like they view you as a parasite because you're changing too much. And so it's kind of like the crab in the bucket analogy, right? Where you have a crab, you have all these crabs in a bucket, okay? And then one crab tries to get out of the bucket, and all the crabs in the bucket are like, no, 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 we got to get you back. So they all try to get the crab back in the
Oh, they
bucket.
do?
Yeah, well, like that's like I don't know if it's, I don't know if it's, I haven't done the experiment,
Okay.
but like let's just say they do, okay?
Okay.
And so I actually think with greatness, it's like you have broken out of the pack, and the pack actually will ally itself, even though they might not be allies in reality, right? No, ally themselves to remove you from, to remove this like this outlier, because they're like, well, you're winning too much, or you're too successful, or you're like, like you're actually a danger to me because you've changed the game so much that I'm now potentially obsolete. I'm now obsolete because you're actually going to, when you change something that much, like nothing kind of goes back. Like you can't really kind of take the cat out of the, once the cat's out of the bag, it's like it's out of the bag. It's like, there's a cat, here it is. And so that's how I at least look at it, right? Because most of these really, really, really great, maybe not the musicians. Like I think the musicians, that's a little different because they're just so, they kind of transcend the whole tribal version of sports, let's just say, right? Like the musicians are more like a worldwide phenomenon. But at some point, like all of them find, like there's at some point something out of nowhere. It's almost like the universe is like, you can have your greatness, but I need to find equilibrium again at some point. It's almost like the equilibrium gets so messed up. It's like with Rome, right? Like when Rome was so, like you think about it, like there's no reason that Rome shouldn't have been successful forever. Like you go look at, like they created concrete. They still don't know how they create concrete. To this day, they have no idea. That concrete, been around for a long time. Our concrete sucks. Their concrete has stood the test of time. Our concrete can't even last 20 years. Theirs, still there. Through wars and bullshit. It exists. Ours, we can't even have a freaking dishwasher work for longer than 4 years. It's a joke. And so they created aqueducts. They created all these crazy things. They had all the gold. They had all the armies. They went everywhere. And then it's like one day, it's just like some dude's like, my town's on fire. I'm gonna play the violin. It's almost like God's just like, we need to put in power the people who are going to destroy this because we need to like just reiterate. The iteration of this was great. We're going to reiterate again. And then we're going to do it. And then you go look at like Greece, same thing. Center of the world, not the center of the world anymore. Egypt, like the Ottoman Empire, great. No. Like all these things. And it's always like just very chance. Like there's just so much chance that happens where it just kind of like the winds work with you.
Huh. Interesting.
Like here's a good example.
Because I sort of, when I think about those, and I'm not an expert by any means in ancient civilization history, and the sense I have actually is that they actually were that the structure of the governance had changed significantly over time in order to match, again, the new conditions in which they found themselves. And when you're mentioning them, I'm thinking, well, which types of civilizations have sustained over long periods of times? And they tend to be more of the ones that are closer to nomadic or indigenous communities because they don't change their conditions. Right? They keep their conditions that they're living in more or less the same or had for a number of years.
But they even got fucked up.
Oh, sure. I'm not saying like, but it was not from an internal, like Rome, Greece, a lot of these places internally combusted, which is different than like the external pressures of
But I
War.
think they're the same.
Okay.
I think that at some point, I'm gonna say it. It's like when
Say
Donald
it.
Trump's like, we're gonna win so much that we're gonna get sick of winning, and I'm actually serious that that's what happens.
Oh, could be.
Like I think that these things of greatness at some point, whether there's always going to be a factor that like it's almost like the universe is like we have to kind of burn it down to build it back up.
Yeah.
No matter what.
Like
Right?
balance.
No matter what. There's always just this rebalance that has to happen, like, and it's always a factor that no one ever saw coming. Like not one person saw it coming. Like it just happened and they're like, whoa. They're like, it's almost like that scene in Anchorman where they have that huge battle between everybody and there's grenades and like it's funny. It's like Channel 5 versus Channel 4 versus like whatever it is, right? And Ron Burgundy and Brick and all the guys are back in the office and Ron Burgundy's like, well, that escalated fast. It's like Brick threw a trident. Brick killed a guy. It's like, it's what happens. It's like Rome falls and everybody's like, well, that escalated quickly. Well, I guess our empire is done. Too bad. Like, seriously. And same thing with these sports dynasties. I think the best sports dynasty that I can think of that did this was the Chicago Bulls. Chicago Bulls are the only team to ever have two different periods in which they won three championships in a row. So, like, Michael Jordan won from 92 to 94 or 91 to 93 or whatever it was, right? And then he took a break and then he came back and then it was like 96, 97, 98. He won 3 championships in a row, right? In the final season, the GM, Jerry Krause, was like, I don't care if Phil, I can't remember his name is, Phil, whatever, the coach of the Bulls, goes 82-0, he will not be coaching next season. And literally, he fired the guy after they won the 3rd championship. And then Michael Jordan's like, I'm going to retire.
Why did he fire the guy?
He's like, we have to turn a new page. We have to try something new. This is where I'm talking about where the universe gets involved. The universe is like, no, we're not doing this anymore. Golden State Warriors, they won like 4 championships in 5 or 6 years. They had the best team. And then it's like, no more. We're not doing that anymore. Here's an even better one, okay? More recent. So the Florida Panthers, I love this, okay? The Florida Panthers, they go to 3 straight Stanley Cups. The Stanley Cup in professional sports is the hardest championship to win. You got to win 4 7-game series to win. So you have to win 16 games to win the whole championship, okay? So they go 3 years in a row. They lose the first one. They win back-to-back titles. So last summer, they sign all their free agents. Their team is still intact. They didn't lose anybody. They're going to come back. They're going to run it back again, okay? And everybody was like, oh, there's no way they can't not win this year. There's no way. They have to win. Their best player in training camp has a freak accident, tears his ACL, MCL. Their second best player has to get ankle surgery, doesn't play till January or February. Their third best player gets hurt like 2 months in. Their fourth best player gets hurt and hasn't played since January, since the Olympics. And I remember saying in the summertime, I'm like, these guys are going to get hurt. And like it's like flipping Thanos in the Avengers. She's like, I am inevitable. This is inevitable. Everybody, article after article, these guys are going to win. They've got the most unfair advantage, blah, 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 blah. It's like Trump. It's like, we're going to do so much winning that we're going to get sick of winning. It's like, yeah, that's what happens. You get, like, essentially you implode from within or you implode from outside in. Like, there's either internal forces or external forces that come to essentially see, like, I am going to get rid of this because there has to be new greatness recreated. We can't have the same greatness over and over again. We have to keep pushing the boundary.
So where do you see this showing up now? Where is it most prevalent for you?
Well, with the Kansas City Chiefs.
I don't know.
They went to 3 straight
You have to
NFL
explain.
championships, and we're one of the only teams to ever go to 3 straight Super Bowls. They won 3 championships in 5 years. Now football's like way more physical than hockey. It's like essentially every single game's a car accident. It's like, yeah, we're gonna play 17 car accidents. We're gonna get into 17 car accidents this year. That's what we're gonna do. It's gonna be, and it's voluntary. It's like we're voluntarily. It's like, hey, car company, you know when you do those like mock car accidents, we're just gonna get in the car while we're there. Like you don't need crash test dummies. I'll be it. And they had the best quarterback. They have so many Hall of Famers on their team. They've had to trade away people, whatever it is, right? Yeah, well, sure enough, Patrick Mahomes gets hurt. They were one of the worst teams in the league last year. And it just happens. Just like this. Everybody hates them. It's like at some point, oh yeah, because you win too much. It's like everybody in Kansas City likes you. Like, you know, like Tom Brady, that guy lasted a long time. I give that guy a lot of credit. That team was impeccable for 17, 18 years. That's a long time. You know, like the Detroit Red Wings went to the playoffs 24 years in a row. That's greatness. You know how hard it is to do that consistently every year. At some point, it's just like same thing with Boston Celtics. Boston Celtics won 11 times in 16 years in the 60s. Do you know how hard that is? The guy, Bill Russell, has a handful of championship rings. A handful. He puts it in his hands. They were dominant in the 60s, dominant in the 70s, dominant in the 80s. And then here's the thing. They get this kid. They get this thing. His name is... his last name was Bias. Michael Jordan was talking about how this guy is like this guy's better than Michael Jordan. That guy on his draft day does cocaine, dies, heart attack. That team had another player collapse in a game. He died.
That's awful.
They didn't win a champion. They were horrible for years. And it's almost as if the universe is like, you guys did a lot of winning. You guys need some adversity. And in the worst way. I'm not laughing that people died. That's awful. I'm just saying, like, I'm laughing in the sense that it's like the universe has to just be like, all right, well, sorry. Here you go. That's what you do with it. I don't know. I just find that, like, you have to find a new way to be dominant and show true greatness.
Yeah, you have to keep outgrowing yourself.
Vulnerability.
Yeah.
Vulnerability. Like, you have to reinvent. You have to keep, like, the most vulnerable, like, so, like, obviously I saw the type of being vulnerable is like finding true love. I think that's the most vulnerable you can be. But another extremely vulnerable thing you can do is reinvent yourself. You know, like you talk about it, right? Like you talked about how usually greatness is found where you have no outside influence. So the guy that created the Soviet national team for hockey, his last name was Tarasov. And there's a great thing. He's like, yeah, so I go to the Politburo and say, okay, can I get film? Because he wanted to watch what hockey was like, because he had no idea about hockey. None. And then Politburo's like, no film. He's like, I guess I had to create a new version of hockey. And he did. And you watch this guy, every single one of that guy's players loved that guy. Yeah. Loved him. Like, cared about that guy. And he loved his players. They were together for 11 of 12 months every year. Training was intense. But he's like, you have to love playing hockey. He's like, you're playing hockey. You could be something worse. And he just had this I love this guy. Love this guy. I don't even know the guy. Love the guy. And this dude got fired.
What?
Yes. He got fired because they were going to play the Czech Republic and they wanted to have a tie because they wanted it for political reasons. And he was like, tie? I'm not fucking tying these guys. Anyways, the Russians win, and sure enough, KGB and everybody shows up and says, you're gone. So there you go. The universe is like, I'm sorry, too great. Get rid of him.
So why do you think then in the initial examples you had given of sustained greatness, that greatness was able to be sustained?
It's a great question. I think my view is that the sustained greatness that's there is you're there for the betterment of humanity. So I think with the universe, I think the universe is like, that's probably a fair thing. But even then, like, you know, that's the only thing that I can think of. And I also think too that from the betterment of humanity standpoint, I think that those people kind of gave their life over to something. Mm-hmm. So it wasn't even about them. Like, I think a lot of this greatness stuff, right? Like it ends up becoming about the individuals versus the greater good.
Yeah.
And I think that usually if you look at what blows all these things up, it's usually ego. It's what blew up the Beatles. It's what blows up all these sports teams. It's what blows up a lot of stuff. Like, it's what blew up Rome. It's what blew up lots of things. Whereas I feel like, you know, when I think about Gautama Siddhartha, the Buddha, that dude just looks like he's like, yep, this is what I'm doing. If you like it, sweet, happy to help. If you don't, it's cool. Like, I'm going to be in my little thing, and people can come hang out, and I'll go from there. Like, there's no, hey, I want to turn this into a sex cult. There's no, there's no, hey, I want to become like the king of wherever I'm at. Like, it's just, this is what I'm doing. And I think that's where, and that's at least what I see. What do you think the difference is? Like, what do you think the difference between those examples and whatnot?
Yeah, going back to the context, it seems the ability to continually shift with the context and outgrow oneself. So definitely that inner, sort of an inner stability and inner knowing and inner guidance through all of that. Because and you said it really well, what I was trying to articulate before, that when greatness is recognized and lauded, it changes your relationship with yourself. It can change your relationship with yourself, how you see yourself, because you start seeing yourself through the eyes of other people, and seeing yourself as great, which already then changes how you, like, if you have this idea that I am great and I am special and I am famous and I am powerful and I am all these labels, right? It changes how you interact with the world, which then it makes a lot of sense why, if you then are putting that out, that the response is to say, well, actually, no, because it's too much ego. It's too much I am special.
Yeah, like, you don't, because the greatness is where you allow something to flow through you.
Exactly.
So, like, I was thinking about, like, if you think about Daniel Day-Lewis, right? That guy had sustained greatness, and then he just retired. He's like, I'm dead. I don't need to do it anymore, right? But that guy did like a movie once every 5 years. Like, I think the same thing with like Quentin Tarantino, right? Like, that guy just does what he thinks is right, and he likes it, and he's not trying to be something that other people want. He's just like, this is what I'm doing. This is what I think. Here's who I am. I have such a stable inner world that I'm going to do this.
Yes.
Okay. And I'd say stable inner world when it comes to like directing. I don't know the guy from Adam and like whatever, but I'm saying like when you look at the guy's work, it's pretty consistent and whatnot. And like, you know, times change, but the thing that I find the thing that is that people will grow and evolve and do different things, but they're not chasing the fame and the accolades. They're just doing what they think is. They're just being like, hey, this is what I do, and I'm moving forward.
Yeah.
And I think that stable internal self is extremely important, because the stable internal self is where you're like, because you're gonna like you'll have your 15 minutes of fame, you'll have your time in the sun, right? But then you have to be able to when that like the sun goes away, because it's gonna go away. It has to go away. It can't like. I don't care how strong the celestial winds are behind you. At some point, the wind dies down. Like it just does. It dies down, and then then you're like, okay, well, all right. I had this sustained, you know, ability for 5 years or 7 years, and then it's like, okay, now, you know, somebody else has to, because it's like what you said, right? You have to keep, like, you have to iterate. It can't just be like, okay, well, you know everything and no one else knows anything.
Right.
It's like, well, the world's going to die that way. So I just think that the people that kind of have that sustained greatness are the ones that are okay when the wind isn't behind their sails. Yeah. They're kind of saying, okay, well, I got to do something different, or I got to do this, or I got to do that. Mm-hmm. They don't, if they're going to change, they change because they want to evolve, not because they feel like they have to. I think a great example of that is George Carlin, because, you know, I don't know if, like, people remember, you know George Carlin, right? Well, you don't know that you like George Carlin. He's a comedian.
Okay.
And so he started off, like on these like shows where, like these like 1950s shows where he'd dress up and be very what like a TV executive wants you to be. But he was depressed because he says, he's like, I feel like I'm a rebel and I'm essentially conforming. He's like, I'm essentially just a puppeteer of the man. I'm a puppet of the man. And then he was making all this money, and he's like, yeah, I'm going to go be poor. And I need to go to, he saw the shift in the culture where it was the 60s and it was on the campuses, and that's what he did. And that's when he went and found who he truly was. And he kept iterating and whatnot, right? He kept reinventing himself. And that's someone that I'm like, this is great. Like, this guy's evolving, and, you know, and there's times where his stuff was horrible, and it's like, that's okay. He's like, he's testing, he's trying to figure out, he's trying to evolve, right? When you're evolving, like, I'm sure when you're going from a caterpillar to a butterfly, it's probably a horrible experience at one point, because you're like, well, I don't know if I'm going to come out as a colorful butterfly or a black butterfly or a white butterfly or whatever it is, but I'm going to like iterate. Yeah, exactly. So, but yeah, I think that there's lots of people that they're, you know, it's not the destination, it's the process that you get there. It's the travel. It's the cool places along the way that you stop that are a heck of a lot more interesting than the outcome.
Well, this is why I asked the question at the very beginning about greatness, because my sense is that there are people who are doing that, enacting that which is true for them at the highest level that they possibly can, iterating on it, but we just don't know them.
For sure, I agree.
Because sometimes that greatness doesn't necessarily attract global attention.
No, for sure. Like, you can be like, well, like, look at you. Like, you were great in your little small town. Like, that was greatness. You had the highest GPA ever. I don't know if someone's broken that since.
I don't know.
I'm just saying. That's true,
sure.
though.
Yeah.
Like, in that realm, that was great. Now, when you went to Brown, I think you realized you're like, oh shit, there's another world out here. I actually gotta grow, and there's some friction
Yeah.
here, right? So it's like you went from being a big fish in a small pond to actually realizing you weren't that big of a fish in a really big pond.
Mm-hmm.
And so that's hard. That's not the easiest. That's kind of the, you were great, then the universe is like, we're gonna have you have to learn some stuff. Doesn't mean that it's no different than like the kid who's like the best basketball player in the state of Indiana.
Mm-hmm.
But then he like goes to a school in California and is like, oh crap, like there's way more people in this state. And what I thought was really good basketball wasn't really good basketball. So I got to get better or whatever it is. Right. Like, I don't know. It's kind of like a dumb example, but it's, you are right. You can find kind of greatness anywhere. And just because you're not on the radio or you're not on TV or you're not whatever it is, doesn't mean that you're not great. Like there's probably a lot of really great things that are happening right now that you and I don't know are happening.
Yeah. Yeah. It comes to mind because this, I wouldn't call this necessarily greatness, but I was recently in the Galapagos Islands and I went to a art gallery there. And the woman had an art installation that I just felt such an affinity towards. It was very simple. She had drawn, I think most of it was drawn pictures from the ocean in that glowed under black light. So it was all about phosphorescence. Cool. It was very cool. So it was in 3 different stages, and there was music that you listened to at each stage. And the first one were several pictures that she had drawn of, I think, of sea urchins. I think they were all sea urchins that glowed in black light. And then the next one was a whole underground, like underwater immersive experience. Well, you weren't underwater, but it looked like you were underwater, and everything was lit up with black light, and you could get down really low and look at coral, or you could look at things up above you, and that was very cool. And then there was a little small booth that one could sit in, and there were sea creatures from the deep, and the sound was a submersible going down as well as some music.
Very cool.
Yeah. And I've been reflecting on this experience the last couple of weeks because it exists in a place where hardly anybody's going to see it. I think 5 people were there when I was there. I don't know how long it's up for. Maybe 100 people see it, right? Maybe 200 people see it. And for her, it was such a true expression of herself. But the way that greatness in a sense has sort of shifted, it's just interesting. I don't know if 2,000 years ago, if that would have reached some sort of level of greatness, because the communication between all the different parts of the world wasn't as strong. Whereas now it's like your greatness has to rise above all of global civilization in order for us to count it.
Yeah. I think that like I want to be clear when it comes to greatness, right? Like I think that's a term that gets thrown around a lot, right? Like it's rare.
Yeah.
Okay, like there's like a great piece of art, or there's a great game, or there's a great, movie or whatever it is. I'm talking about like consistency, like consistent greatness. Like people, as I said, right? Like you can find that, that creative spark like this, and then something great comes out, right? And then boom, you've done that. Okay, that's super impressive. Okay, like a book or whatever it is, right? Like I think I was reading about, I think it was The Catcher in the Rye, or is The Catcher in the Rye, or what's the one with Atticus? Oh,
To Kill a Mockingbird.
Spider. Was this? Yeah, To Kill a Mockingbird. Like that lady, right? Like she had no idea she was going to write that book, and then she wrote it, and then she was like, "Oh my god, I didn't think it was going to be this famous," right? But like she didn't. That's all that people remember her for.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that she's not a good writer, But it's like, that's where like you kind of caught lightning in a bottle and everyone's like, oh my God. Right.
Yeah.
Same thing with Dune, right? Great example about Frank Herbert. People don't read the other Dune books. They just read the first one. They're like, oh, this is I don't like the other ones. I'm like, well, have you read them? Well, no, other people don't like them. I'm like, I've read all of them. Like, I think that they're unbelievable. That's where I know Frank Herbert was a genius, because it wasn't just one thing. It was a sustained thing. Mm-hmm. Same thing with the guy that wrote The Wheel of Time. It's not one book, it's 14 books. He had to like convince Brandon Sanderson to finish the stuff for him. He's like, I'm dying. Like, I need you to finish this. And the guy's like, 100%, I'm going to finish it. And people say that A Memory of Light, which was the last book which Brandon Sanderson wrote, is his best book. Brandon Sanderson's written 70 books or something crazy like that. So when I talk about greatness, like look, I agree. That woman's art installation sounds incredible. I'm talking about it where it's like, you have greatness for, like, consistent greatness, right? Like consistent. Like Alexander Ovechkin has scored 25 goals in every single season of his career. He's been there for 25 years. You know how hard that is? First of all, it's super hard to score in the NHL. Mm-hmm. Second of all, it's hard to score at a consistent clip. Third of all, to score 25 goals. Like, there are really good players in the NHL that don't do that. Mm-hmm. So what I'm saying is that that's like impressive.
Yeah,
and
it is.
It's very impressive. But I'd also agree with you too, right? Like, there's probably other very impressive things that people are doing that no one knows exist.
Yeah. Why do you think greatness is so rare?
Why?
Yeah, why?
I just think it's super difficult. So first off, I think it's a very scary thing to pull away from the herd. It's a very lonely existence. It's very, very lonely to be, for one. I also think that it requires, as you said, like, it requires very specific ingredients. You need to be obscure. You need to, I'm not saying that you need to have like a broken home. I'm not saying that all these people have broken homes, but like, sometimes that has to happen. Like, there has to be some sort of pain or friction or something. You have to look at the world differently. It's really easy to conform. Super easy just to be like, I'm going to be that brick in the wall. Perfect. I found my spot. This is comfortable. It's a lot better to be like, it's a lot harder to be like, I don't want to be part of that fucking wall. I hate the wall. I actually want to break the wall down. Mm-hmm. That's a little bit scarier. And when you do that, right, you just have friction the whole time. There's friction. There's always friction. There's friction because you look at the world differently. There's friction because you're not relatable. There's friction because, everybody's like not very happy with you. There's jealousy. There's all that kind of stuff, right? Like Cat Williams, I love what Cat Williams says. Like, man, you need haters. And it's true. All these people who are really successful, they have haters. There's an army of haters. Like, for all the Swifties that exist out there, there's lots of people who do not like Taylor Swift. For all the people that love Michael Jordan, there's lots of people who are like, I don't like Michael Jordan. And I think that that's kind of the hard part, right? Like, it's a nomadic path. And as humans, we crave connection. So it's you're going to go and do something that creates no connection, and you're going to be a nomad, and no one can relate to you, and you're just kind of out there on an island. You need a fucking really, really, really impressive internal fire that burns really hot all the time to kind of keep you going.
Yeah. And tremendous
That's
discipline.
So much discipline.
Yeah.
Like, it's a burden. Like I talk about with Jess, right? Like, I look at the world differently than people. You look at the world differently than people. I think this is kind of why you and me and Jess and all these different people kind of find each other, because it's hard to be different. It's hard to look at the world differently. It's hard to be constantly like just doubted and, you know, it's just hard. It's a lot easier to be the person that's like, oh, we really like that person. He's like so like conforming and lovely and doesn't rock the boat. You know, they don't like the people that come in and say, this is fucked. Why do you guys do it this way?
Fair.
Like, I'm not sitting here saying that I'm a fan of Donald Trump, but fuck, that dude is got a lot of haters, but there's also like, there's a part of him that you're like, wow, like there are things that you do that you're like, that's, you know, I don't like you. I think you're an awful person. I don't like anything that you stand for, but there's like a respect level where like this dude's like doing shit that other people don't do.
I mean, that is a true statement, yes.
So don't have to agree with him. Like, it's pretty hard to agree with him, but he's there's something about him that people like. I don't know. It's odd, but there's something there.
Well, he reflects that part of us that is rebellious, that wants to be able to do that. So either it's appreciated or not appreciated, but one way or another, that's what, for me, that's what that reflection is.
That's a very eloquent way of putting it.
I enjoy, maybe enjoy is not the right word here. I find it useful to look to see what is being mirrored back to us from the people that we are elevating as great or important or whatever it is you want to ascribe to them, because they're always mirroring something back about what we find valuable, what we're afraid to look at, how we behave in society.
Have you ever read the book Bowling Alone?
Bubbling alone?
Bowling, like bowling.
No.
Okay, so Bowling Alone is about about how like this guy, this social psychologist, political science guy, was trying to figure out like why politics and social capital has been declining forever. And so anyways, he went over to Italy like in the 1970s when they broke up all the regions into governments. It was a great social experiment where he was figuring out, he's like, why do governments in certain places work and why do they not work in other places, right? And so what he figured out was it's all about social and civic engagement. So the more engaged a society, the more social capital you have, the less polarizing your politics are, and actually the more successful government is. Trust goes up, etc. And so like what they talk about was civic engagements, like being part of your like parent-teacher association or like joining a club or any of that kind of stuff, right? And so what he did was he looked throughout the last 40, 50 years in America, and it's like everything is declining. Like parent-teacher association membership, like all, like, you know, like the Rotary Club, all these different things, right? They're all just declining. Going to church, like going on picnics, having people over to your house for dinner, like it's just all declining, which also leads to a more mistrustful nation, which then leads to more political polarization. And what he found was back in the 1900s, like late 1800s, early 1900s, we actually had hit a nadir of like social capital, where politics were super polarized and everybody was pissed and and then actually led to like a incline in social capital where people were joining. That's when like the Rotary Club and all these different things were created. And so his whole thing was, he's like, go join a club. And I'll say this, like I joined Al-Anon like a long time ago, like over a year ago. And when you go every week to a room filled with like-minded people that are there for a common cause, there is a lot of joy you get out of that, because you don't, I'm like, I don't care if this person's rich, poor, a Democrat, Republican, I don't care. We're all there to kind of coalesce around something. And there's a lot of health benefits. There's just a lot of different things that you get from it. And it's something where I actually think that's more of the, like, Donald Trump's a symptom of social capital being really shitty versus anything. And same thing in like lots of places in the world. And I love your view, like, like what you think about it and what your view of social capital is and how we fix it and whatnot.
I never thought about that social capital in that way ever before. Uh, and I look, it makes sense. There aren't that many spaces for people to gather as there used to be. There, the Rotary or the Chamber is interesting because in California, when I started the nonprofit and sustainability years ago, I did join the chamber, but nobody was part of it. It was just very old people who had been part of it for ages, and they weren't really doing anything. So then when I moved to West Michigan, I thought, well, I'm not going to join this because I know there's nobody part of it who's doing anything. And it turns out, because we just joined it recently, it's really active there. So it's interesting because that community feels much more like a community than the community I was living in California, which was obviously bigger, but maybe population wise, but actually area wise was about the same and easily could have supported something much tighter. So I can see what you're saying. I can definitely say that I experience it, that there's not as much civic engagement, at least in cities and on the coast as much. The town I grew up in, one of my closest friends has been involved in reigniting civic engagement in that town. And that's been really cool to see and to hear from her perspective how much the town is kind of being brought together because of the activities and things that she's doing. It makes sense, though. The idea of mistrust does seem to be at the core, that there's an inherent mistrust that we have of each other that's just wasn't there 40 years ago. Not in
Oh,
this
for
way.
sure. It's like you see it now, like with parents.
Yeah.
Like on my street, it's awesome. We have a street group chat.
Mm.
Everybody knows everybody's name. We all say hi to one another. Like when we first moved in, my neighbor made us a pie.
Oh,
Like
that's really
these
nice.
are things that's so nice.
Yeah.
Like I'm not worried about my kid running along the street.
Yeah.
But it's crazy, like you have parents who are saying, oh my God, like I can't have my kid walk home from school. Like your kid, it's not like you're in like a gangland, like what, like, and even then in those places, their kids walk home from school all the time. Like people aren't, there's a kid, shoot that kid. Like, it's just like the gangs don't want anything to do with that. They're like, we are going to go to jail if something bad happens to that kid. Like, we're going to it's not good. So like, and we go back to like why kids, like with the whole rite of passage and whatnot, right? It's like when kids are just stuck inside all day watching TV and playing video games, it's like, no wonder they're all going to be freaking awkward people when they get out in public. It's like they don't actually ever interact. And then when you have people just solving all their problems for them, it's like, figure it out. You guys have an argument? Figure it out. Yeah. One of you guys caught each other cheating, playing capture the flag? Deal with it. Figure it out. You want to be resilient? Like all these parents, like, oh, I want my kid to be resilient. It's like, okay, then why the hell are you doing everything for them? Why don't you trust that they can just like go outside and like figure it out?
Right. Yeah. It would do a lot for society if we could start trusting ourselves and trusting each other.
Well, and like when you have general trust of a society, you root out the mistrust. Yeah. Like you root out the people who are bad actors. You're like, that guy's bad. Get rid of that dude.
Yeah.
But when you don't trust anybody, then the good actors are kind of lumped in with the bad actors, and then everybody's just kind of screwed.
Yeah. It becomes very difficult to discern also because everybody's looking to accuse somebody of doing something wrong, right? They're looking to sow more mistrust. So that also doesn't help. So actions that might have otherwise been interpreted as kind get interpreted as unkind or as aggressive or whatever. You know, they have this lens that we filter everything through, is a lens of you're bad, I can't trust you.
Totally.
Just doesn't, it doesn't help anybody, and it certainly doesn't help the kids.
No. Yeah. The funny thing about that title, Bowling Alone, right, was the reason why he said it was called Bowling Alone was because he figured out he was talking to all these different bowling engagement when he was writing it was like at an all-time high, but all these bowling alleys were losing money left, right, and center because nobody was bowling in a league anymore. Everybody was just showing up to bowl by themselves and then or bowl with their like one friend and then leave. Yeah. And what they said was they make no money on the bowling, they make all the money on the food and all that kind of stuff, right? So because you're not there in a league, like they figured out all these different stats where like if you bowled in a league, the amount of beer and food you bought was exponentially higher than if you came alone. And then all these bowling halls were just losing money left, right, and center, even though the amount of people doing it was at an all-time high.
That's interesting.
Which is a great kind of like oxymoron. You're like, how is this? Doesn't make any sense. It's like participation's at all-time high, but all the companies are losing money, like left, right, and center.
Bowling Alone definitely also feels like it captures the feeling of this moment, even though I know the book might be older, of just us doing things by ourselves that are meant to be done in groups,
100%. Well, the 100, and there's like certain things where like I don't want to do that in a group, but there's other things where like we should probably do that in a group. All right. You got any more?
No, I feel good. Thanks.
I feel good too. All right. Well, thanks everybody for listening. We went on a lot of different tangents, which is always fun. And this is our 1 year, the episode to christen the year that we've done for mental spelunking,
Woo-hoo!
which I'm very, 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 very happy with. Allison, thank you so much for going on this journey with me, and I look forward to doing it for a whole other year as well.
Yeah. Here we go.
All right. Thanks, everybody. Bye-bye.
Bye.